Yeah, if in fact we are the recipients of God's grace, we ought to be the first people in line to extend grace to others, in particular those who have fallen short. For the word declares that all of us have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Tell somebody, thank God for God's grace. Today's message and this series is somewhat of a follow-up that was birthed out of our I Belong small groups, because it was during our time of small group ministry that there was a desire for greater relationships and intimacy among God's people. In those small groups, people should be able to open up in dialogue with a level of transparency about their lives, watch this, without fear of rejection. I'm the real me, and I want to be able to share with you the real me. Yeah, I don't want you in my life just to celebrate my successes, but I need you in my life to embrace me in my failures. I can't get no help right there. I said, I don't need you in my life only to celebrate my successes, but we need each other to celebrate our failures. Now, some of y'all didn't say anything. Some of y'all didn't smile. No, some of y'all didn't say amen. Some of y'all didn't clap. Didn't nobody shake their head and nod in approval, because we don't like to deal with the fact that all of us are prone to failure. Just because you're saved and you come to church, you have memorized a couple of scriptures, and you got a cute heat coming on a Kawasaki, does not mean that you are exempt from falling short. If it had not been for the grace of God, none of us would be in this place today. Look at somebody, tell them, I got to thank God for grace. Yeah. Paul writes his letter because he's trying to bring some order. He's trying to bring some balance, and at the same time give us clarity pertaining to judging someone else. Can I give you a few things from this passage? Note, if you will, first of all, we are not all at the same place or level. I said, did y'all hear that? I said, we are not all at the same place or level. Look at somebody beside you and tell them, I know you have arrived, but pray for me. Some of y'all didn't say nothing. I said, look at somebody and tell them, I know you have arrived, but pray for me. Paul was trying to tell them that we're not all at the same place or the same level. Look what he says in chapter 14. Look at verse number 1. Paul says, receive one who is weak in the faith, but not to disputes over doubtful things. For one believes he may eat all things, but he who is weak eats only vegetables. Paul says in verse 1 that some of us are weak in the faith. Some of us are weak in the faith. And I need to throw in there parenthetically, that's not a bad thing. See, the problem is we don't like to confess our weaknesses, because the pseudo strong believers will then judge us because we're not on their level. Paul said among some of y'all, there's some who are weak in the faith. All of us are not strong. Yeah, and you got to be careful of how you walk around with your head sitting high, talking about how strong you are, because for every time you confess your strength, you're going to be tested in what you confess. Y'all not talking to me, because we are quick to judge somebody and SMH other people predicated upon their failures without fully understanding that what others have fallen prey to, and we judge them. We stand now to be tempted by the same thing. I know y'all don't like this kind of preaching, but I just want to say and announce in this place, in this atmosphere, leave folk alone. I knew I wasn't going to get much help, so I'm going to let that settle in. I'm going to let that marinate in your spirit. I know you upset because you want to be the Dr. Phil of the church. You want to be the person that helps everybody, but let me help you. Leave folk alone. Y'all not saying, some of y'all looking crazy, but do me a favor and slap somebody and tell them, just leave folk alone. Leave folk alone and watch this, and love them to growth. Leave them alone and love them to growth. Leave them alone and love them to growth. If they slip, leave them alone and love them to growth. If they fall by the wayside, don't damn them to hell. Leave them alone and love them to growth. They ain't got to come to you and confess to you like you are a priest and you got the authority to forgive sins just because you ain't seen them in church for a month, and when they show up, here you come trying to get an account because you just nosy. Leave folk alone and allow folk to grow in love to the Lord. We expect folk who've been smoking for 20 years to get saved and stop smoking simultaneously. We sitting in church and praise and worship, and time some cigarette smoke come across our face. Oh, the blood of Jesus. If you've been cussing like a sailor for most of your adult life, salvation does not automatically make you cuss free overnight. Some of y'all discovered that just this past weekend when somebody in your family got over your nerves. The apostle said, who are you to judge somebody who doesn't even belong to you? Who are you to judge somebody when that somebody doesn't even belong? They don't. Who are you to judge somebody else when that somebody else does not belong to you? Look at somebody, tell them, I don't belong to you. And since I don't belong to you, therefore you cannot judge me. He goes on to say that if we observe certain days, we observe those days to the Lord. If we eat certain things, we eat those things as unto the Lord. If we drink certain things, we drink those things as unto the Lord. If we live unto the Lord. If we die unto the Lord. Come on, talk to me, Paul. Paul said, therefore, whether we live or die, we belong to God. Shake somebody's hand real good and tell them, I belong to God. I belong to God. Everybody shall give an account to him. Everybody is going to give an account to God. Everybody has to give an account to God. Y'all ain't liking that, but I'm going to say it again. Everybody has to give an account to God. In other words, who are you that I got to give an account to you for my failures or my successes? Y'all ain't liking this kind of preaching, but I'm going to stay right here. Who are you that I got to give to you a blow-by-blow description of what I did wrong? If you ask me what's wrong and I tell you I'm going through, that's all you need to know. Pray. You ain't got to know every detail. You ain't got to know all the accounts of where I was. You ain't got to know where I was at 8:57, 8:58, 8:59. It's none of your business. If I tell you I'm struggling, you ought to have a close enough relationship with God to pray for my struggle and declare, God, I don't know what the struggle is, but give him strength. I don't have to know everything, but I learned how to pray for the infirmities of the weak. So then the question becomes, why doesn't God give us the right to judge others? There are many reasons, but one reason is because we're not gracious. We're not gracious, nor are we fair in our judgment. See, you want to pass judgment on somebody for what they did, and it became public knowledge. Meanwhile, you messed up, but it was private. And so now, because you did what you did and didn't get caught, you want to turn around and pass judgment on somebody who did get caught. Judgment. Come on, you remember the story of the prophet Nathan's confrontation with David? After David sinned with Bathsheba and had her husband Uriah murdered, God was saying to David, David was passing judgment on this man, not fully understanding that the man Nathan was talking about was himself. But because he was so quick to pass judgment on somebody else, he didn't realize that he was talking about himself. And so we develop selective amnesia and forget what we did because we're so busy dogging out somebody else predicated upon the severity of what they did wrong. David was like, the rich man had all these animals and he took the poor man's lamb and killed him and served that to the guests. How dare he? He deserves to die. Wait a minute, brother. You had I don't know how many wives. You sleeping in the palace, and just because you up at 3 a.m. and your wives sleep and you hot, you slept with Bathsheba and then had her husband murdered. But now you want to kill somebody else and pass judgment. Oh, y'all not talking to me. David was ready to kill the man, not realizing he had done the same thing and worse. And that's one of the reasons we're not permitted to judge. Some of us don't know when enough is enough. I said some of us don't know when enough is enough. The mere fact that God was gracious and we did not get what we deserve is reason enough to not judge others. Now, there are times when we are permitted to judge, and we'll look at that later. Tell somebody that's for later. Another reason it's good that we don't judge others is found in Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 and 2, the Bible says, "Judge not that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." In other words, the same severity at which we judge others, God will judge us. Look at somebody and say, ouch. Therefore, we should really flee from positions of judgment, because the same measure we judge somebody else, God gonna turn around and judge us with the same. I don't care who offended me. I forgive you, baby. I love you. God bless your heart. I forgive everybody that ever done me, baby. I ain't gonna judge. God bless you. I forgive you. Go on and live prosperous, be blessed and highly favored in the Lord. I ain't judging nobody, because I want God's grace to be extended at the same measure that I extended to other people. We specialize in pointing out the speck in our brother's eye while we have a plank in our own eye. There's a great hair debate going on among African American women. The natural hair versus the permed hair. Y'all ain't liking this. You're convicted about chemical perms. You done researched it. You done read all the information. You done found all the dangers of chemicals and all of the social implications. So there you go. You went natural. Good for you. Bless your heart. But if your sister want to stay with the creamy crack, leave her alone. I don't know why you still putting that mess in your head. You ought to leave that alone. If I were you, hadn't you heard the FDA said such and such and such? Don't you know you messing up your brain cells and all that? Hadn't you heard all the information? If I were you, child, I would, that's so bad. On the flip side, cream and crack people, if your sister want to look like Angela Davis, leave her. Stop judging each other by what convicts another person. This is perhaps the downside of social media, because social media has given power to opinion. And so we say certain things not really fully understanding that that's just your opinion. And social media has now given it power, but we should not judge one another based upon our own conviction.